Hi guys, it's Ona, your energy customer service rep from Chicago, and we are going to talk about the full moon in Sag. This is what Moonshine episode 8 with Dr. Vicky, who just got back from Ireland, okay, and is just fresh off the gravitational pull.
Barely.
Barely. So good. That's okay. And there's so much stuff I want to ask you about Ireland. I think we could do like a whole separate episode on that
Yes,
because
we could.
I want to, I mean, just watching the videos and seeing the trees. I had a little window of time off yesterday and I almost went to the Arboretum because
Yeah.
they have a display right now. I'm like, do I get my hair cut or do I run up there and run back? And I just like if you've gotten into this like tree thing, which is funny because we've got all this movement going on in Taurus, and it's
Yeah.
like,
That
right?
Jupiter, the Jupiter in Taurus is showing, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. So this moon is a full moon in Sagittarius. It's going to be at 13 degrees of Sag, opposite the sun, at 13 degrees of Gemini. So this axis is the axis of the mind as we are, right, trying to figure things out. It occurs on Saturday, June 3rd at 22:41 Chicago time or Central Standard Time. So around almost 11 o'clock at night, I'll light the candle on the balcony. I already got the idea for the space for it. And that's going to be the full moon. Hopefully I get a shot of it. I haven't been able to stay up long enough to even watch the sun go down. I have people sending me pictures of a sunset because I'm falling asleep, or pretty much as soon as I go home. I haven't been doing a lot of videos because I'm working 7 days a week right now.
Yes, you're a busy lady. You're a
I'm
busy
very,
lady.
very busy right now, but this is a very important full moon. So let's look at the chart and get
Okay.
a feel for how this is going to manifest itself. I got some interesting ideas about it. The day is a 16/7. That's a tower day,
Yes, it is.
right? The moon
Well,
is
not for everyone, because for some people it does happen on the fourth. So
right.
if this full moon happens on the fourth for you, then you're in a 17-8 vibration, which is the star.
Yes.
But here for us in America, if you go by Washington, D.C., it's a 16-7. And for you and I, and I guess anything west of me,
Yeah.
right? It would be the third.
It's going to
Am
be
I
on the
doing that
third.
right? And
Yeah.
then like if I was in Ireland still, it would have been on the fourth, I think. So
Yeah.
yes.
So the moon is in Sag, who's ruled by Jupiter.
Yes.
Okay. Jupiter's, just bumping uglies with the North Node right now,
Yep.
right? So the ruler of this moon is hitting on the North Node. So this is like, I always say, well, this is such a significant full moon. This is a big full moon.
Yes. The sun is disposited by Mercury, which is also in Taurus, but in approaching a conjunction to Uranus. So I think it's the next day we have the Uranus Mercury conjunction. So there's all this Taurus energy in a way on both sides of this moon sun moon combination, even though it's I guess it's not really even connected. Well, I guess we maybe have no, it's not connected. I don't think it's connected to any of the Taurus by aspect, but certainly by dispositorship.
Yeah.
So, Taurus is about what we value, what's important to us, what's necessary. It's the necessities of life, food, clothing, shelter.
Yeah.
Those are the focus, those are the focuses. And then of course we can't not look at the giant square, even though it's not necessarily connected to the full moon, right? We have to look at this north node, Jupiter, south node, Pluto, Mars is still square,
Yep.
but here's Venus coming along, and in the next day or so, Venus is going to be moving and doing the same thing that Mars did a little while ago, right? Wasn't Mars square? Wasn't Mars opposite Pluto
Mars
at
is a square Jupiter.
right at the new moon
Yes.
portion of this full moon, right? Which was that new moon at 29 degrees of Taurus, conjunct the Pleiades, conjunct Algol.
Yeah.
So there's heads will be rolling. And the interesting thing about that is usually we don't like the new moon is like the seed and the full moon is the fruition. So there could be some head rolling with this full moon in these signs. And you can't, you have to look at Trump because it's his nodes. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not exactly on his nodes, but it's close enough
Yeah.
to know. So we may hear some stuff
And
about
if
that.
you're a gardener, it might be the time to snap off that top leaf. I think that's what I would do. If you want something to grow laterally, it's
Yeah.
time to snap off that top leaf. This is
Right, right. And that's for politics and for gardening.
the gardener tip would be. Oh my God.
And then the other thing about this full moon is that Saturn is square the axis of this full moon, and it's about to go retrograde. It's going to go retrograde on the second week of June. So anytime
Saturn is square the axis of this full moon, and the axis
right.
of this full moon is the mind. So
That's right.
right, and focus on what part of the mind is generating new information. Okay, there's a file open. You open a file every day.
Yeah.
Right? And how this full moon is actually at that is an opening of a file. For sure.
And this Saturn being at this degree, which is around 8 degrees, right? If you round it up. This is as far into Pisces as Saturn's going to go this year, because now it's going to go retrograde. It almost doesn't, it stays in Pisces, but like to the very, very beginning. And then I think by the end of the year, it's moving forward. And I don't think it gets past at the end of the year, like 3 or 4 degrees. So, but we're going to have an opportunity now to sort of look over the stuff that we did in those beginning months of Saturn and Pisces. So there's some going over of things. And because the full moon is the axis of the mind, right? We have the intuitive side, which is Sag. We have the logical side, which is Gemini, and oppositions are about balance. They have that energy of Libra. It's observing both sides, and then you have Saturn, almost like the fulcrum,
Yeah.
the balance there. So it's it's not quite exact, but it's exact enough that we need to look at it in both, I think, a practical way, Saturn,
Yeah.
but but an imaginative way as well.
Yeah.
I
I
think
like the idea when I was thinking about, what would be something to help this full moon energy was I thought, give me a song, but I'm not going to get a song because the last few days I've been back into listening to binaural beats to sort of stabilize sensory overload again. And I'm like, that's like the perfect thing to do for this full moon is to just say any binaural beat and put the headphones on. You see the little headphones in there that you feel you need. Maybe you have ringing in your ears, or maybe you have a little anxiety or an abundance thing, or I had I know I was going to be in front of a computer seeing a lot of movement with numbers and stuff today. So I had the Tesla 369 channel on to help me sort
Yes.
numbers better.
Yeah.
So I think if you wanted to pick a song for this full moon, there really isn't one, but pick a binaural beat, because the gateway to being open to receptive to this stuff is open with the Sag moon. Or
Now
just
I just want to point something out, Ona, and I just noticed it myself, so I'll see what you think. Well, we know we have this giant square here, right? With the nodes and Pluto and Mars and Venus and Jupiter, but we also have one of these little, what do you call this?
a
The
structure of death.
sesquiquadrate, the semi-square, the sesquiquadrate, and it's the moon and Pluto and Venus and the sun.
Yeah.
So this is, I don't exactly know what it's called. It's not a mystic rectangle, because that's more of a positive. This can be a pretty constrictive energy, I think,
Yeah.
with that
It looks like the bed of a fire. If it were a crop circle or something, it looks like that is the sad.
and I think that is something we might have to be aware of with this. I know I've heard about a lot of fires. There's a lot of fires. And, like not, of course, there's always wildfires, but it's not that kind of fire. It's like these little, like, I don't know. I've just heard about a lot of fires in the news, homes and different things. And
Yeah, we're in a drought. I rained today. I don't know if it cured the drought or not, but when there's an alert for a drought, there are certain protocols in place, right? And California is always in a drought. You have to be very, very strict about how you know, have any flame in California. It rained a little bit. I don't think we're out of it, but it definitely has that feeling to it, you know. After it's muggy right now. It's just hot and muggy.
yeah, it's nice and cool here.
Yeah.
So I'm appreciating it while we have it, because once it gets hot and muggy, I am not a happy camper.
There were a lot of that. And I mentioned this on the pre-show there, that if I were to stand back and witness a trend, it was one side, one side of my brain thinking of the scientific and one with the astrological stuff. There's a trend in heart
Yes. Mm.
issues bumping right now. And I know we've just got thrown into a heat wave, and cardiac events are typical at that time, but it's just too much of like this North Node moving into Taurus, and I mean the Jupiter moving in and bumping up to the North Node and spilling out with the South Node. It's Scorpio. There's just a lot of correlations I can see in this trend of stuff that's happening to people right now.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think there's this, it's like we're getting to critical mass here, right? Where
Yeah.
things are gonna, you have, like, because of the fixity of the nodal picture, and because it's at the end of the nodes now, because the nodes move backwards, right? So this is like the last gasp, because the nodes will change, I think in July. I
Yeah.
think it'll change,
Yeah.
going into Aries, and there'll be a break. It's like there's an energy of breaking, something breaking open, breaking through, break
Yeah.
through to the other side, something like something.
So talking about fires and droughts, I don't see how the North Node moving into Aries couldn't be a more clear picture of that.
Yeah, and Pluto by that time will be back in Capricorn, and then it squares the nodes exactly. But Pluto's been squaring the nodes now for I think a year. Seems like a year. I don't know, might not be that long, but it seems that
I
way.
don't know how long he can keep his arms up like that for very long.
I give up.
Like, can you Rick seriously? Like, is this a contest? Because you're winning here.
Yeah, and look at him look at him just sitting there in that 12th house for this
Right,
children group. Yeah. Yeah.
right. Just sitting there, just not up saying nothing, just like waiting for it, get somebody to, drop the ball. So
I think the other thing that we have to take into consideration with, and we've actually talked about it a little bit, I think, is the fact that, Sagittarius is court stuff. It's justice. It's the ninth house is the Supreme Court, right? There's that South Node in the ninth house in Scorpio. So we're seeing, there's a lot of things being exposed now, and I think that will continue. But I think the North Node in Aries is a little bit better, even though you'd say, well, Aries is like that energy of war, maybe, or that aggressiveness. But I
little
think
point.
I think it's more about being you, like
Oh yeah.
being the I am, as opposed to, fighting.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that. I like that interpretation. It's going to be interesting. It's a first summer moon, although it's not technically summer solstice yet. Memorial Days are that unofficial bump
Right.
when the beaches open and stuff like that into summer. So it's kind of like the first summer moon.
I think it's called the strawberry moon. This is the strawberry
It's
moon.
strawberry moon, although our strawberries are not quite ready yet. Maybe they will be by the 4th because this heat.
I had the most delicious strawberries I've ever tasted in Ireland.
Did you bring home the seeds or anything? Your big purse
Yeah,
with seeds
I
and
brought a rock home.
clippings.
I bought I bought a milk bottle home, that I could make into a vase. And I bought some books home, which probably shouldn't have done because I have enough books at home.
Oh, it's
But
different. The paper's different. It's different. It
it's
smells different. Yeah. No. Hmm. That's so cool. Gosh, it was just, I can't imagine. I've seen trees like that.
oh,
That
they're just
like,
magnificent.
right? Like you need like several people to reach around it just to hug
It,
it,
I don't even, I can't, it's indescribable.
right?
It's so magical.
And I just really truly wanted to go to the Morton Arboretum in my window of really did. I'm like, I need to be around a big, big giant tree that's gonna keep me safe, which I feel is very Taurian too, because trees have a little look like a Taurus glyph a little bit to me sometimes. Or maybe that's what I'll sculpt one of my bushes out.
I feel a creative spark being ignited here, folks. We'll see what Ona comes up with.
It's all about what the plants how they present themselves with how I'm moving things around up there. So it should be interesting. I just haven't had a lot of time to do anything but work.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm not creative. I'm creative at work. So we'll see.
As long as you're not an accountant, that's good.
God no. So did you think about a crystal or a stone that would be a good antenna for this full moon?
The first thing, do you want me to come off of this now? Is that okay? Or do
Yeah,
you want to keep it?
yeah,
That
no,
way we can
yeah,
see each other and we're not like this big. Uh, well, the first thought was selenite, because of course it's full moon, right? Why wouldn't you have selenite? And then the other one was sodalite, because I always kind of correlate that with Sag.
yeah,
It's like a journeying stone, you
yeah.
know?
And also like for it holds some nice weight in the throat chakra, which sometimes Sag needs.
I
Times.
don't know. My husband has a Sag moon. He has no problem talking about what he thinks about stuff.
I like that. I got Amber
Oh, I like
just
him.
before, and it was, well, first of all, I got some new cards in the mail, or Amazon dropped them off today. But I got Amber because that same idea of scrying an image, even with sodalite, you can trying to scry an image, just getting your mind to the point where it's quiet enough that it picks up on what this portal is delivering.
One of the other things you can do, as long as you're careful, is candle gazing. Have you ever done that? You light the candle, then you watch the flame, and the flame will tell you a story. That may be something you can do with this because it is a Sag moon
Yeah,
and
need
it's
fire.
fire. But you just need to be careful. You can't leave it unattended. You can't go into a fugue and then fall into it because of the
Yeah,
fire issue, right? But
yeah.
of course, I know everybody's watching us. It's pretty.
Be in the safe and respect that idea that wherever you're living, if you are in the United States, it's pretty droughty around here. So,
Here too.
just be
Here too.
mindful about those kinds of things. Always fire safety. When I leave a candle lit, it's on my stove.
Wow, you are good.
That is the safest. That is the only place to keep it. I move the altars onto the stove top before I leave that room because I'll be one of those people that forgets. I would. Yeah, I got Amber to sort of kind of giblets, that was giblets there. Scry into, disquiet the mind, because this is that access. And I think it's a neat gateway to get some downloads, as the community
Right.
says, right?
Right. And I think especially with Saturn stationing in Pisces,
Yeah.
that's also, this is a very psychic moon,
Yeah.
very psychic moon. So your mind is all like open. And so the other thing when with Saturn and Pisces is one of the downsides of Saturn and Pisces is that you can imagine the worst and you can manifest it. So I think it's important not to focus on what you don't want to have in your life. I think I've said this on every new moon, every full moon, every shine, every shadow we've done is that you really do have to, in a way, ignore what you're hearing from the outside. The other thing about this axis is the Gemini side of it is the media,
Yeah.
and we hear what they want us to hear. They tell us what they want us to hear. And, is it the chicken or the egg? Is it really us and doing and them reporting on what we want, or is it the other way around? So I think that you have to ignore all that stuff, a very meager diet of media, I would say, and
Yeah.
focus on what your own intuition is saying to you about
Right.
any situation.
Yes, your
That's what I
intuitive
want to say.
abilities are huge, and I love that point. And I made this point to my kid the other day. I said, people who were not allowed to think freely for themselves are suddenly telling you how they think you should think. Don't listen to those people. Don't listen to the people that clearly were not allowed to think for themselves, because they're just spitting out stuff that isn't even true. They just want to pull you into thinking the way they do. Be a free thinker. Be a free beer. That's a good.
Well, with Mercury so close to Uranus, talk about free thinker.
Yes. Yes. And stay on that. Don't allow people who weren't allowed to think for themselves to tell you what to think, because they don't know, right?
No, you have to run it through your own filters, and you have to trust that. You have to trust that, you know, so.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's awesome. So I'm going to get this up so people can get some kind of idea on what they can do for this full moon to, support themselves and be open to the energies that are out there that are trying to tell you something, right?
Yeah, and if
Be
you can
open
get
to-
out into nature, I think it's important.
Yeah,
Anytime we're dealing with the Sag moon, I think it's a very important time to connect with nature. In fact, shut off the television and go out. Even if it's hot, wait till it's cool enough at night or whatever to go out and just walk a little bit.
and you didn't have, what, when we were kids, this was the time when all the reruns were on TV. So you didn't have anything to watch on TV. You were forced to,
Oh, yeah.
you had to be outside because there was nothing to do inside.
Right. And you would go out late because it was too hot during the day to do anything. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
some of my favorite things to do in the summer was like once the sun went down, we used to sit on the stoop with the
Yeah.
neighbors and the kids would have Coca-Cola or probably not Coca-Cola, probably ginger ale because they didn't want us to stay up. And the grown-ups would have Tom Collins.
Yeah. Yeah. We would ride our bikes, we would play ball. And then when we got older, we did stupid stuff like ride skateboards and stuff like that. But you can't, it was just, yeah, I know. It was different. So now we have 24-hour media coverage, right? And there's never a break because you have to. You have to force yourself to just turn that off.
Yes. I
And
mean, it's good to be informed, don't get me wrong, because I check in now and again, but
yeah,
I try not to get too involved. And what happens when you do that is you'll notice right away, you see the bias right away, and you'll know when to pull back. You'll know when it's something real, and you'll know when it's just something they want to convince you of. And that's true whether it's the left or the right side of the
yeah,
ticket here,
yeah.
you know. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for squeezing this time in between your busy
yeah,
day.
it's like one something in the morning. I mean, in Ireland.
Oh, yeah, it's only 7 here. I'm like starving. So I'm gonna get going. I love you guys, love you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Bye,
And
everyone. We love you.
I'll post more
Have a,
stuff because I'm sure Jill's got something to say around this full moon.
for sure. Have a safe one, everyone. Stay
Yes,
safe.
thank you.
Namaste, everyone.